item on the agenda, I have the honor to pass the floor to Madam Chair. Madam Chair, over to you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. May I now call on Honorable Silla to lead us in Muslim prayers and Honorable Joyner to lead us in Christian prayers. Thank you.
Madam Chair, thank you. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين وارثا واسعا مباركا وأمطا وسيهة البدن اللهم افتح قلوبنا بالعلم أعوذ بالله من شر النساء ومن شر الشياطين والسلطان الله إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين آمين.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. I'll recite the Lord's Prayer for today. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
Registrar, can you please call the witness?
Okay.
Good morning and welcome witness number 1 and number 2. As I always say, it's a daily routine from Monday to Thursday to remind you of the oath you took to make testimonies before this commission.
Thank you.
Before I pass or yield the floor to Madam Chair, you are all reminded that you are still under oath. Madam Chair, the witnesses have been reminded of their oath. Over to you.
Good morning, Mr. Tambura and Mr. Sanyang. We are happy to have you back.
Thank you.
Yes. Council, can we proceed, please?
Thank you. Morning, Chairperson and Commissioners. Good morning, Mr. Sanyang, Mr. Tambura.
Yes, Council.
I'll just hand over the file, Bassa Area Council 2 of 2022 that we were dealing with yesterday before we adjourned. And I'll refer you back to the table that we were looking at. The table is headed Tabulating the Evaluation of Bids for 2022 Project at Dry Season Market.
Sorry, lead councillor. I'm not sure whether this is the file, the TR file.
Assistant Registrar, can I have the file, please?
I think this one was started with, by Sanyang. It's a different one.
Pardon?
This one is different from the one we dealt with yesterday. This one was treated by Sanyang.
Oh, it doesn't matter who. I just need us to go through the file
Okay, no,
again.
no, I
So
thought
if
you-
it's him, that's fine.
No, I thought you are referring to the one we are dealing with.
Okay.
But
So
it's
I
okay.
didn't refer to any particular witness. I just
Okay.
wanted the file to come to the both of you. I mean, the both of you can decide who's going to deal with it.
Okay.
That's your
Yeah, that's fine.
prerogative.
I think
Yes, I
Sanyang
mean-
will continue.
That's fine. Mr. Sanyang, have you found the table?
You see the table, tabulating the evaluation of bids for 2022 project addresses in market.
Yes, that one. So yesterday there was a conversation about the requirement for GPPA registration, and you had said that as far as the authority was concerned, it was not necessary to register before participating in the procurement process. Now, assuming that that position is right and you're correct, it is the procuring organization's decision what requirements they would want their bidders to fulfill in order to participate. Is that right?
Yes, but these must be in accordance with what the law provides for.
Right. So if we're working on the assumption that your position is right and the Act is silent on that point, the procuring organization still has the right to require registration with GPPA prior to participating in their procurement process.
I will not say that the law is silent on that. What I will say is that is what the position of the authority has been since the inception of GPPA, that all the law that we are looking at that was guiding our operations was looking at registration as an award criteria. And even at our trainings, we emphasize that prior to award, suppliers, contractors can compete, but the crime is when a procuring organization decides to award a contract and effect payment without a supplier or contractor being registered with the GPPA. That has been our understanding and interpretation.
Yeah. So that's
of the law
your
up to-
that's your understanding, and we
Correct.
haven't, that's your understanding. The Act is there.
Correct.
When I say it's silent, there is no specific provision saying that you don't have to register before participation. There is no specific provision in the Act saying that.
Correct, yes.
So the rest of it would be open to interpretation, as we have seen yesterday.
Correct.
So in light of that, each procuring organization can decide what requirements they want the bidders to meet in their bidding documents and publish it. And the bidders would have to meet those requirements to participate. Is that all right?
Like I said earlier, yes.
Is that
but-
right?
Yes, but in
Okay.
accordance with the law.
That goes without saying. Everything everybody does needs to be in accordance with the law.
Okay.
So, where a procuring organization has put one of the criteria as you must have a business registration to participate. If a bidder participates without a business registration, would they be liable to be disqualified?
Yes.
So if a procuring organization says you need to be registered with GPPA before you can participate, if the bidder has not registered with GPPA, are they liable to be disqualified?
Yes.
Now you have Alcamba Stores, General Construction and Supplier, and under the column that says registration GPPA 2022, their registration is stated as 2021. Is that correct?
Correct.
Under Albalde Consulting and Construction, under GPPA registration 2022, it says no. Is that correct?
Correct.
Under Al-Kawsar, I think, General Construction Company, registration GPPA 2022, it says 2016.
Correct.
Now, this is the tabulation for the evaluation criteria that they have provided. And it would appear that none of the bidders fulfill the requirement to be registered with GPPA in 2022. Is that right?
Correct.
So ordinarily, none of them should be given an award in respect of this procurement, if we're going on the basis of this evaluation table.
Correct, yes.
Now, so this aside, the purpose of the Act is to ensure that there's value for money, the GPPA Act.
Correct.
Right? Now, you had said yesterday that the Act only requires that you register before being given an award. Now, are there instances where entities have tried to register with GPPA and for some reason or the other, they didn't meet the requirements and GPPA refused to register them?
When they meet all other requirements and GPPA refused to register them?
If for any reason they don't meet requirements, are there instances where GPPA has refused to register an applicant?
To register with GPPA, there are documents that you must present. For example, clearance from GRA and the like. So if you come without a clearance from GPPA, obviously that supplier will not be allowed to register unless this is provided.
That's what I'm asking. It will help if I have a clear answer. So if they have not met one of those criteria, you would not register them?
Correct, yes.
Now, you have, let's have a hypothetical scenario where you've had several bidders gone through the procurement process, and they have gone to the point where it is, the procuring organization has decided on a preferable bidder. Now, that bidder does not have a GPPA certificate yet. So the bidder goes to GPPA and applies to register, and for some reason they didn't provide one of the required documents, let's say, and GPPA refuses to register them for that reason. Then they go back to, the procuring organization, the rest of the bidders, let's say, don't meet the criteria for the award. So that was the only decent bidder, and now GPPA has not registered them. Would the procuring organization not have to relaunch that procurement?
Correct, yeah.
So would you agree that that would defeat the purpose of the Act if you're allowed to participate in the process and go to the end only to not get your GPPA registration, and then the procuring organization has to do the process again?
Well, we were guided by the Act by then.
I'm not faulting you, I'm not blaming you, I'm just asking, because at the end of the day, the purpose of this whole thing is to make sure that everything works, and it works well.
Council, I think I agree with you, and like I said earlier, yesterday, perhaps these are some of the weaknesses of that Act. That is why it's being corrected now in this new 2022 Act. That is why in the old we have award criteria, and this other one, participation and award. So you must have registered before you even participate. So agree.
Okay. So I just want to refer you to Regulation 126, just to see what you think about that. Now, this particular procurement was a request for quotation. It was the request for quotation method that was used. Regulation 26 deals with the procedures for request for procurement. Sorry, request for quotation.
Regulations
126, sorry.
Okay.
Are you there?
Yes.
Now, sub 1 says quotations shall be requested from at least 3 registered and independent bidders. Now, what is your understanding of that?
Actually, I think is defeating the purpose that our first understanding of what we think that is an award criteria only and not for participation.
So, to be clear, your understanding of Regulation 126.1 is that the bidders should be registered with
Exactly.
GPPA before they can provide a request for quotation.
Correct, yes.
Okay. I also wish to refer you, so back to the file, GPPA Form 101, which is the request for quotation. Now, just to confirm, there's only one of that form in the file. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes,
There's only
yes,
one.
yes.
And I believe you had said previously that each bidder who's providing a quotation would complete one of these forms and send it to the procuring organization.
Correct, yes.
So in this case, the area council is saying that they had 3 quotations. Would they not have to send you all 3 of the quotations?
They should.
But this one is only for Albalde Consulting and Construction.
Correct.
Would it be correct to assume that if they didn't send you all the quotations, it is possible that they did not receive all the quotations?
Probably they have not received all the quotations or not even consulted them. Maybe they were not even consulted.
Now, is there a way that GPPA would know whether the procuring organizations actually send out these requests? Because, so a hypothetical situation, is it possible for a procuring organization to say that, especially in cases of restricted tender and these requests for quotations, to tell you that they've sent 5 quotations and yet you have 1 bidder? In circumstances like that, is it not possible for them to have only sent to 1 rather than the 5 that they have said that they've sent to?
Yes, it's possible.
So is there a way that GPPA can know that they actually sent to the 5?
Now, our approaches to various procurement transactions may differ. But if we have doubts, that is why in case of restricted tenders, sometimes we send representatives to witness things like that. But apart from that, in case of doubts, we may ask for waybooks where the various suppliers were sent the letters and signed that they have received them. So these are the kind of things that we will ask in case we have doubts at any stage.
So we've seen some councils that you've sent representatives to for the bid opening. But so at the bid opening, there's some that only two bidders have provided their bids. There's a lot that only one has provided their bid. But when your representative goes to witness the bid opening, is there any way at that point they can tell that people were actually properly invited, other than open tender, which has to be published in the newspaper, etc.? But the others, it's the procuring organization itself sending the request to the different bidders. So is there a way that your observer would know at that point whether they actually sent? Do you have actual instances where they've requested for way books at that point?
And that is among the purposes or the reasons why we normally send them for bid opening. But for requests for quotations, normally it is done at their own end, except if it is sent to the GPPA for approval. But otherwise, request for quotation is done at the level of or levels of the procuring organizations. But for tenders, yes, because the tender document clearly states the time for bid submission and opening. So with or without GPPA being invited, we can even attend without an invitation.
Yeah, so I get that part. But so for KMC, there was one of the procurement processes where it was floated and only one entity expressed interest and submitted their bids. Now, in such an instance, do you have any instances where your institution has seen that, okay, say maybe there's 5 that were listed, but only one has tendered a bid, and that is very strange? Do you have any instances where GPPA has actually taken the steps to go further and find out?
Council, I cannot remember exactly, but then there are instances where we even make telephone calls to verify from the various suppliers or contractors whether it is true that they were contacted. We did that several times.
Do you have any records of those?
That is what I'm saying. I cannot remember exactly when and what we've been doing that.
Yes. Mr. Sanyang, is it a requirement, is it a mandatory requirement for the list of selected bidders to be sent to the contracts committee when it's an RFQ procedure that is to be adopted?
Can I make clarification? To be sent to the contracts committee or to the authority?
To the contracts committee.
Yes. It's the contracts committee that is responsible for preparing the bidding document and the like. Of course, they have an SPU, specialized procurement unit, but even if the SPU is doing that, is doing that on behalf of the contracts committee. So it is the responsibility of the contracts committee to ensure that that list of potential suppliers is part of whatever they're going to submit to the authority.
Yes, but we have seen that from yesterday, whilst we are treating these files, we've seen that in most cases, you don't see some of these things reflected in the minutes. Is that correct?
Some of like the
yes, the list
of
as provided for under section 126. Because 126 C says that they should submit the list to the contracts committee for approval. That is to say, if an RFQ is to be done, and if the 3 quotations are obtained from 3 registered and independent bidders, that must be sent to the contracts committee first for approval. But have you seen the contract committee approving those, aside from the letters that they write to you? That is the PO extending or sending you the information that they have identified, you understand, 3, 5, 6.
Actually, like I said earlier, is the responsibility of the contracts committee, so that.
No, what I'm saying is that we have not seen this, just as council is trying to put across to you, we've not seen this reflected in the file. So we are asking why. That is to say, when RFQ process is adopted, they must first submit that list for approval to the contracts committee before it even gets to you, to say that these are the people we have selected through RFQ.
Yes, it should be like that. And this can be in different ways, either reflecting in their minutes of the contracts committee that they met under a list of potential suppliers identified, and at the end of the day, they all have to append their signatures. But on the other hand...
But who is to submit to the contracts committee?
That is why previously I said is in fact the responsibility of the contracts committee to do that. But here the assumption is the SPU, Specialized Procurement Unit, who should of course do the groundworks and submit everything to the contracts committee for approval.
I think that is the proper process, because the contracts committee will not submit to itself. So it must be a particular institution within the setup that will submit to them for their approval and consideration.
Correct.
Yes, thank you. Council?
Thank you. Mr. Sanyang, so I refer you to your letter dated 18th March 2021.
Yes.
And it is headed Reconstruction of the Market. Now, can you just take us through the letter?
Reconstruction of the market. We refer to your letter without reference dated 28 February 2021 relative to the above subject matter. Following careful review of your submission of evaluation report for the construction of dry season market at Basse, Wharf Town, I hereby convey to you the authority's approval of your request to award the said contract to Alcamba Stores General Construction and Supplier at a quotation price of $2,418,518. The authority's decision is based on the justifications and recommendations of your contracts committee in its signed minutes of the meeting held on the 3rd March 2022 as per the powers bestowed on it by Section 47(3) and 49A, B, D, and E and F of the Gambia Public Procurement Amendment Act 2018. The authority is advising you to plan your further procurement strategically to avoid using RFQ instead of open or restricted tendering for high-value procurements.
Now, to be clear, so you have said that your letter is referring to their letter dated the 20th February 2021, and your decision to approve is based on the contract's approval request to award the said contract to Alcamba stores, and it's based on the evaluation report and the decision contained in the minutes of their meeting held on the 3rd March 2022. Now, it's right that the letter dated the 20th February 2021 came with all the attachments, which included the evaluation report dated 4th March 2022, which contained the contents of the meeting of 3rd March 2022, in which they decided to award the contract to Alcamba Stores General Construction.
Council, I'm trying to see the letter, but
So
I haven't seen
there's a
it.
letter dated 20th February, which is the one that your office received on the 10th of March 2022. There's a GPPA stamp on the front of it from Basse Area Council. If you remember yesterday, that's how we started that file.
28. Yes, a letter dated 28 February 2022.
Yes, and yesterday we had said that you can't tell from that letter whether they're seeking approval or anything, because it looks like they're just telling you what they're planning to do.
Correct.
And that letter went with all the accompanying documents, which included the evaluation report and the minutes of their meetings, etc. Is that right?
Correct.
Now, your letter is saying that it is in response to that letter, and it is based on the evaluation report and the decision in the contracts committee meeting that you're approving the award of the procurement to Alcamba Stores General Construction. Now, is it not correct that your approval was given after they have gone through the entire procurement process? There was no prior application to use the request for quotation method. Is that not right?
Correct.
So the first letter that came in respect of this procurement was the one seeking approval for the entire process. Now,
The one dated 4th.
yes, there's a 4th March and other
2020.
documents.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, this is even though the RFQ method was not the appropriate method, as you had said, because it is above the threshold set out in the regulations. Is that not right?
Correct. Yes.
Also, I believe you had pointed out previously that where they have stated in their forms, either the requisition form or the other form that they're using, that their budget is, say, in this case, $2 million. There's a, did you say 15% margin that it could go above or below?
Yes, 50 plus,
And that
plus
if
or
it-
minus 15.
Yes, and that if it goes above or below, it is not proper. I believe you had said that this is something that you would flag.
Correct.
Now, in this case, they have said that the contract is being awarded to Alcamba Stores General Construction, and it is at the quotation price of $2,418,518. Now, perhaps you can do the calculation to check, but I believe that is 118,000 plus above the 15% margin.
I think it's above the plus or minus 15%.
So 15% of 2 million would be 300,000. This is $2,418,518.
Correct.
Now, so your authority did not flag the issue of going above the budget. Your authority did not flag the issue of the wrong method. You also did not flag the issue that they did not seek prior approval to carry out this procurement. And the other issues in respect of not meeting the criteria that are shown in the evaluation report, and you gave approval basically for their award.
Correct.
Would you say that the authority essentially helped them, if not helped them, but you stood by and let them flout the provisions of the Act?
Correct.
Also, there's no contract that was sent to you after the award, and there's no notice of award or notice of notification to the other unsuccessful suppliers sent.
You are right, because normally our approvals should not be the last letter for the file to be closed, because after the letter we expect to, after some time, we expect to receive Form 041 to indicate or report to the authority the level of implementation and successes or whatsoever. And as you rightly said, a contract document to inform the authority about some of the contractual agreements. Yes, you are right.
But do you know whether this project ever kicked off for the reconstruction of the market?
No idea, but we'll find out probably and then report back to the commission.
Okay. Also, does your authority have a database that contains all the procurements that have gone through, so that you're in a position to follow up about the contracts? Because there's a period in the Act within which they should have entered into a contract with the bidder that won, right?
Correct.
So do you have a database that would have this information so that you're in a position to follow up to ask for the contracts?
Yes, we have a database.
But then you don't follow up?
Well, when the need arises, yes, we look at the database and for any informed decision making.
But do you not think that the need arises with every procurement? Because the entire purpose of your authority and the Act is so that there's value for money, right? If
Correct.
Every year the procuring organizations are going through a procurement process, they're collecting money from bidders, they're using public funds, they get paid sitting allowances or whatever allowances they're being paid, they're going through the entire process. The main work of the local government area councils is to carry out development projects within their jurisdiction. They're going through public funds to do all of this. And at the end of it, you don't have any contract to know whether they actually went through, after going through the entire process and spending funds, whether it culminated in any agreement. Do you not think that is part of the processes that your authority needs to complete to know that, they actually went through the process and there's going to be at least some value for money? If something happens, they have a recourse against the bidder that won, or you would be in a position to know whether they just go through the process just for the sake of going through the process.
You are right, but in most cases, we make verifications during our post-compliance reviews.
I thought your post-compliance reviews dealt with the procurements that are not for prior approvals. Is that a yes?
Yeah, but we also use that as an opportunity
yes,
to...
Mr. Sanyang, can you answer through the mic so that we understand what you are saying? Thank you.
Yes, the compliance reviews basically are for those procurements that were not subjected to the authority's prior review. But then we also use that as an opportunity to see some of the projects when we feel that we should see them.
So this is a project that is for $2.4 million is odd. And do you know the timeline when there should be a contract signed according to the legislation?
Without the contract document here, I may not be able to establish.
No, I mean, there's a period between award and contract signing, right?
Okay.
So that period, that's what I'm saying. Do you know what the period is?
No, I don't know.
Okay. So if you had a database that had say the date of your approval for the award, and you know that a contract is supposed to be signed within 3 months of that date, you would also have the date. And if your office was going through that database on a daily or monthly or weekly basis, you would know the procurements that should have had contracts by then that have not been sent to you. And you'd be in a position to follow up.
Correct. I think that is a good observation, and we'll try to look at our database because, like I said, we have a database, but some of the issues that you are raising, though very important, but they are not captured. And probably a Gantt chart could have been better to monitor progress and so on and so on. But then we have taken note, and it's a good observation, and we have taken note of it.
Chairperson, if you have questions on that.
Yes. Mr. Sanyang, given what we have discovered in this procurement, would it be correct for the authority to have referred to section 49 that that the contracts committee had followed due process?
Section 49, functions of the contracts committee.
Yes, I'm saying,
yes,
having regard to everything that has been said, which had shown that due process was not followed by the contracts committee. Is it correct for the authority to refer to section 49, confirming that they are in compliance with what it contains? Because we have severally read section 49, and it's clear what it provides for, right?
yes.
So was it right for the authority to refer to section 49, saying that the contracts committee has complied?
Actually, if you look at the points on the section 49, and that is the functions of the contracts committee, 1, verification of proper procurement planning and
Has that been done in this circumstance?
availability of funding. Now, since the request is from the council, and we assume that, yes, the contracts committee must have met and agreed that it is something that works executing. It's a contract that they should implement.
So there was verification of proper procurement planning and availability of funds. You are sure that was fully complied with?
Unless I refer to the procurement plan to know exactly, but
so do they
I
have
cannot
plan?
remember.
Do they have plan for?
And we'll
for
take
the
note
year
to,
under review?
We have a cutting that we collected from them with procurement plans. We can verify whether this particular procurement was planned for.
Kindly submit the box that you have gotten. And kindly let us also know, we requested a lot of documents from you.
Yes,
whether
yes.
you are able to access those documents.
Some of them, yes.
And the challenges you have, because you have indicated at some point that those files are with us, so that you can refer us back, and that will enable us go back to the files to verify and check the information.
Okay.
Yes. Can you proceed? So subsection B, approval of the bidding, of the invitation to bid.
Approval of the invitation to bid and the bidding document.
Yes, that was also done correctly.
In this case, I think they use RFQ instead of the bidding document. And yes, the Form 101 is what they use to solicit quotations from the various suppliers, although we don't have any evidence to show that all potential or identify contractors were served with Form 101. But this is a request for quotation that they use, and the form that they use instead of a bidding document is GPPA Form 101.
So have they complied with A, B, D, E, and F, as you quoted in your letter?
D is opening of bids, and they must have opened the quotations from the various suppliers.
But quotations and bids are different. The reason why I'm asking is because I don't see the correlation of what you are saying here with the provisions of the law. That is what I'm saying. Because you can interchange bids for RFQ submissions that are given. Or can you do that?
Our understanding is somebody sending a quotation is a bid, because you are applying for something is a bid. So we refer them as bids.
But in this instance, did they comply with the rules that you set for opening of bids?
I said earlier that it's only, according to them, only one quote was. We only verified that there was only one Form 101. But suppose there are 2 or 3, they could not have arrived.
But even that Form 101, did they follow due process? If you say it is, you take it as it is a bid, did they follow due process in dealing with that bid document or that request?
Actually,
is there any evidence in the file?
No.
Thank you. Counsel?
Thank you. Assistant Registrar, can I get that?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
let me just further ask for you to clarify why the fourth paragraph, you wrote a sentence that you bolded, meaning you've attached some significance to what you are saying as an authority.
Correct.
And you have strongly advised that they should plan, which means they do not have plan, because if they do, you would not have advised otherwise. And so as to avoid using RFQ. But nonetheless, you always bend backwards to approve when you even know that they should use open tender or restricted tender for high value procurements like this. Can you explain?
Actually, going by that sentence, the bolded sentence, the authority agreed that the procurement method was wrong, but given the circumstances, probably that was preferred by the procuring organizations. The authority decided to consider giving approval. However, with a warning that in subsequent procurements, they must ensure that they go by
what was the circumstances that did not allow you to reconsider whether to grant approval or to ask them to use the proper method? Because this is the reconstruction of the market. Remember, the laws have provided circumstances where you can give approval because it is provided for in the regulations.
I cannot, this juncture, remember those circumstances unless if I take time to go over the minutes and
Yes.
all the submissions to look at the justifications that they must have.
There is no justification because the minutes are there. We've gone through the minutes. There is no justification unless they spoke to you verbally.
I don't think it's verbal. I cannot remember anyway.
Is there any justification in any of the letters or in the contract committee meetings?
I have not seen the justifications, but if I, maybe, the points are noted, unless if I go over the file again and look at it carefully to know
Yes,
the reasons why.
The only thing that is in the letter is the letters they convey to you and you replied, and the contracts committee meeting which we have dealt with. There is no extra information in that file. So can we proceed? If you wish to, we can allow you to check and you can come back on this issue.
It's okay.
Or you still want to maintain that they have justification or it's recorded somewhere?
I'm not very sure anyway.
You are not
I think
sure?
we can proceed.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor.
Thanks. Registrar, please hand the witness's file. This is Bassa Area Council 3 of 2022. Mr. Tambur, this is a file in respect of the disposal proceedings. Is that right?
Yes, Council.
Now, just to go through the process, there's provision for disposal of stores, plant, and equipment in the GPPA Act.
Yes, Council.
And the Act requires that the head of a procurement entity convene a board of survey
Yes.
comprising representatives of departments with unserviceable, obsolete, or surplus stores, plant, and equipment, which shall report on the items and, subject to a technical report on them, recommend the best method of disposal after the officer in charge has completed a board survey form.
Yes, Council.
Now, is this something that you're aware of the procuring organizations have? Do they have a board of survey? Do you know?
No, Council, I don't.
Is this something that your authority checks for?
Yeah, it is provided for in the law. But normally, when dealing with disposals, most of the time the concentration is on the disposal committee.
So, okay, the Act also provides for a disposal committee. Do you know whether the different area councils have disposal committees?
Different area councils? No, I wouldn't know, Council.
What about Basse Area Council? So if you look at the minutes of the meeting that they have sent, it's the contracts committee that has sat on the issue of disposal.
Yes, from the submission here, the contracts committee was in charge, and normally the disposal committee is a kind of a subset to the contract committee. In other words, they are answerable to the contract committee.
So you would agree that it is not a disposal committee that presided over the issue of disposal of the obsolete goods for Bassa Area Council.
This one was, yes, Council.
Okay, so the members that were said to be in attendance are Usman Toure, the Chief Executive, Lamin, I'm sorry, this is the minutes of the Contracts Committee of Bassa Area Council on serviceable and obsolete items dated 24th March 2022.
Exactly.
So you have Usman Toure, Chief Executive, Lamin Suso, Director of Finance, Mohamed Jaune, Procurement Officer, Yaya TBCC, Planner Engineer, and Seni Kanute, Councillor, Bassa Area Council.
Exactly.
And they have said that the management and the Contracts Committee and the management of Bassa Area Council find it necessary to auction some of the items listed in order to reserve price or income for the council before lying down without rendering services to the council. And they have said that the Contracts Committee and the Procurement Officer has referred them to Section 58 to subsection 63 of the GPPA Act and Regulation. And the Contracts Committee recommend that the method of disposal under Section 58 subsection C for vehicles and engine in order to sale by public auction, subject to reserve price for the institution or council, while for the scrap metal subsection D of the Act states that destruction, dumping, or burying them since they are no longer useful for the council. So just to find out, does the authority have any say in the method of disposal? Is that something that the procuring organization would determine on its own, or would they seek guidance or approval from the authority?
Sincerely speaking, in practice, most institutions generally hardly submit to GPPA for approval when dealing with disposal. That's the common practice we have realized. But once a while, some institutions do submit to GPA for approval. But the understanding is like this is, as you said, the prerogative of the board of the board or the disposal committee.
Okay.
Sorry,
Because there are a lot of instances when, in fact, central government would undertake consolidated disposals, asking institutions to submit all unserviceable items, obsolete items to central government to do the disposal. So this has been seen time without numbers. So, and there has been some kind of, to some extent, but I have to verify, some kind of inconsistency when it comes to disposal between the GPPA Act and the Public Finance Act or the Financial Regulations. So we had discussions with different stakeholders trying to reconcile these differences. So I'm not sure whether that was what must have triggered that most institutions do not submit to GPA for disposal.
Okay.
Is this provided for in the regulation or in the Act?
Disposals, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, it's in the Act. Yes.
What provision of the Act? And is it also provided for in the regulation? Can we be guided as to what the Act and the regulations are saying with respect to disposal so that we are informed of what should happen?
It's from Section 58
Of the regulation?
of the Act.
58. That's the old Act, huh? 58.
This particular file was dealt with during the old Act. So with the old Act that applies.
58. Just read it.
Mr. Sergeant, can you take us through what Section 58 is saying while Mr. Tamuro will check your regulations to see what is provided for?
Section 58, disposal of obsolete and surplus items. 1. The head of a procurement entity shall convene a board of survey comprising representatives of departments with unserviceable, obsolete, or surplus stores, plant and equipment, which shall report on the items and subject to a technical report on them. Recommend the best method of disposal after the officer in charge has completed a board of survey form. 2. The board of survey's recommendations shall be approved by the head of the procurement entity, and the items shall be disposed of as approved. 3. Where items become unserviceable for reasons other than fair wear and tear, such as through accident or expiry, the procedures or the procedure established by the regulations for handling losses shall be followed before the items are boarded and disposed of.
So the Act provides for the disposal methods, and the Act also provides for the disposal committee, and also the disposal procedures are all provided for. That is to say, Section 58, 59, 60, and 61 deals with the method, manner in which disposal is to be done.
Correct.
By the procuring organization.
Correct.
Yes. So, at what instant do they notify the authority?
Yes, Council. Just for the regulation, I have not seen any provisions in the regulation.
Yeah.
Yes, for disposal, that's what I said earlier.
Yeah.
Because of that concept, it is not very common for us to even receive issues of disposal at our authority. It's not very common, generally. But at what stage should they report to GPPA? So here, it is just the law governing procurement generally. Normally, once it is submitted here, we look at the law governing procurement generally, and specifically this section 58 to 63, to see whether they are complied.
Yes, but Section 61
Yes.
authorizes the PO to give notice. It's provided for in Section 61.
To give notice.
To notify the authority.
Yes.
You see that?
Yes. The understanding here is, we have seen that the understanding here is at what stage. Because most of them, what they do is, after the whole process, they send us records.
Is that how it should be?
So I think the law here, as far as we are concerned, I said, it's not very clear exactly as to what stage should they be reporting. So, because others feel disposal is not cannot strictly follow procurement procedures. I'm just trying to tell you the perception generally. So that's why generally in the country, we hardly receive disposal issues. But once we receive them, we refer ourselves to the relevant section to see whether they are complied with. Yeah, that's the reality on the ground.
Thank you. Council?
I'm just going to allow my co-counsel to proceed with a different file.
Okay.
Assistant Registrar, please assist.
Yes, let me give you this file, BAC, that's Brikama Area Council, TR3 of 20. So That application would be for the purchase of 2 pickups. Can you make reference to the letter dated the 13th? Can you make can you refer yourself to the letter of the 13th of July 2020?
Okay.
Are you there?
Yes.
Yes. What is that application about?
Request for permission for use of request for quotation procurement method.
Yes. What is the procurement about? Is that not an application to procure 2 double cabin pickups?
Yes, I expected it to be in the letter, but now I want to look at Form 100, where it should be clearer.
Just look at the back page. You will see the form at the back page.
Yes, double cabin pickups.
And what is the price?
The estimated price is 1,700,000.
Very well. Now, when they sent the application for the use of RQ, request for quotation, now the first instance it was refused. Your institution refused to grant application for the use of RFQ on the letter dated the 30th of July 2020.
Correct.
Can you tell us the reasons in not granting that application?
Let me go through the letter. After a thorough review of your submission, the evaluation report and information provided in the minutes of your contrast committee meeting, inspection report by the chief mechanic, we regret to inform you that the authority cannot grant approval for the procurement of 2 used reconditioned Toyota Hilux double cabin pickups, manual diesel 4-cylinder tow, Gimar car trading at an amount of 1,700,000 due to the following. 1. Generally, purchases of second-hand is not catered for in public procurement, and these vehicles are not specialized equipment and are readily available from the vehicle suppliers registered with the authority. As a result, you are advised to please follow it to tender and arrange suitable payment terms to purchase the 2 vehicles, or you purchase one from the 1,700,000.
Now, in summary, there is an application to purchase 2 used double cabin pickups, and the amount is $1,700,000. Is that not correct?
Correct.
So you refused to grant the application, and you highlighted 3 reasons. The first being that they are second-hand goods. They are not being provided for or catered for by the act or the regulation.
Correct.
And the second being that the vehicles in question, they don't fall under the category of specialized equipment.
Correct.
And the third being they are also readily available to suppliers that are known that are also registered with GPA. Is that not the case?
Correct.
And therefore you would not grant application. But then, interestingly, they submitted a reconsideration with respect to your decision. They wrote a letter to you, I think on the 13th of July 2020. You will see the stickers on the side. 13th July 2020.
Yes.
Now, that letter on the 13th July 2020, what is it about?
Request for permission for use of request for quotation procurement method.
Yes.
The Brikama Area Council wishes to procure 2 used double cabin pickups for use on revenue collection and other supervisory functions, and therefore seeks your permission to not only proceed but also to use the RFQ procurement method. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, this year's revenue collection is seriously affected and makes it impossible to procure new vehicles, even though they were budgeted for. Furthermore, owing the strategic criticality of vehicles in revenue collection, particularly failure to purchase them could have serious ramifications on the overall performance of the council in the second half of this year.
So on the 13th, they sent an application to use request for quotation method to procure 2 vehicles in an amount of 1,700,000. On the 30th, you rejected the application. And then, another letter on the 3rd of July. Do you say that on the 3rd of July? It has a sticker on it?
This is the 30th.
So, on the 3rd of July, now it is important for us to follow the dates, because here in this particular procurement, what I will hint you about is that there is an express or very visible and possible fraudulent scheme in this particular procurement. Now, let's get the dates right. On the 13th, they send the application. Do you follow, Messiah? Messiah, are you following?
Yes, this is the 13th.
On the 13th, they send the application. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, correct.
On the 30th, you rejected.
Correct.
On
Yes.
grounds that the vehicles in question do not fall under the specialized equipment.
Correct.
And in addition to that, they are also readily available.
Correct.
Now, on the 30th, you rejected, right? But on the 3rd of July, they sent a reconsideration of your decision. Is the date right?
Yes, on the 3rd of July.
On the 3rd of July. Remember, on the 13th of July, they sent their first application
Yes.
for you to grant approval. And you rejected on the 30th of July. Now, on the 3rd of July, the 3rd day of July, they sent a letter to you for you to reconsider your application, which was sent and rejected on the 13th and on the 30th subsequently.
Correct.
Are you seeing the sense?
Yes, yes.
On the 3rd of July, they sent the application for you to reconsider. Can you read the content of the letter, just the beginning?
You have request for permission for use of request for quotation procurement method. We acknowledge receipt of your letter of on approval. Approval reference GPPA stroke Brikama Area Council stroke transaction 3 of 22 PMA and dated 30th July 2020. The Contrast Committee of Council would wish to strongly appeal for a reconsideration of your decision due to the fact that Brikama Area Council is very weak in its revenue collection this year due to lack of mobility.
Now you got to stop there. Now the letter, what date is on the letter?
3rd July.
And they are saying you should consider your decision, which was made on the On the 30th July.
30th July, yes.
Does that make sense?
No.
But then I will tell you why it doesn't make sense at some point. But let's just proceed. Now, when they sent that letter, and what is the reference of that letter? The reference?
BAC stroke 077 stroke E.
That is the letter, that is the reference of the letter dated the 3rd of July.
Yes.
How about the letter dated the 13th of July, sent by Brikama Area Council to your office? The first letter on the 13th of July.
BAC stroke 077 stroke E.
The same reference.
Correct.
Is that correct? Now, when they send the letter on the 3rd for you to reconsider your decision that was made on the 30th of the same month and the same year, you reconsidered the decision. Is that correct? And on the 5th of August 2020, you declined to grant the application again for the second time. Do you see the letter?
Yes.
Can you read the letter for the commissioners?
That's 5th August 2020.
Yes.
A request for permission for the use of request for quotation procurement method. We refer to your letter reference BAC stroke 077 stroke A dated on 3rd August 2020 relative to the above caption subject matter. Following review of your resubmission, please be informed that the authority still stands on its previous decision in our letter dated 30th July 2020.
Yes, before you proceed.
On the procurement, yes.
Before you proceed, that decision that you are standing on, dated the 30th of July 2020, is the letter that refused the application in the first place.
Correct.
Now proceed.
From your submission, the authority learned that 1, you have 1,700,000 for the 2 used vehicles, and 2, your main concern is about the lack of enough time for a tender process. Please note that the authority understands your situation and is therefore willing to shorten the bidding period for you to 14 days only. Furthermore, the authority is opined that suitable payment plans could be arranged to get you 2 new pickups, and this will earn you better value for money than buying the used vehicles. We thank you for your understanding.
Now, again, on the 5th August, the first correspondence between your office and Brikama Area Council is a letter emanating from your office rejecting their application for your consideration, dated the 3rd of July.
Correct.
Do you understand?
Yes.
Now, on that same day, the 4th of August 2020, when you rejected their application, they sent another letter on the same day, dated the 5th of August 2020. Correct. Do you see that letter?
Yes.
Now they are asking for they are further appealing for you to reconsider your decision. What is the reference of the letter?
BAC stroke 077 stroke E.
The same reference.
Correct.
Now they wrote a letter to you back on the same day when you wrote a letter to them, still rejecting their application. And in this time they are saying they are further appealing to you. Please read us the letter.
Further appeal for approval for the procurement of 2 used reconditioned vehicles. The management of council is hereby making a further appeal for the procurement of 2 reconditioned vehicles. Kindly note that the council do not have the money to buy these vehicles, and we are only making a payment plan with the dealer as we have no money at the moment. Further, the Brikama market has witnessed fire outbreaks within the space of 3 months, and these incidents has posed additional financial burden on the council in terms of giving support to the affected victims and implementing measures to avoid reoccurrence.
No, now, on the 5th, when you rejected their application, they sent a letter requesting for further reconsideration of your decision, of your initial decision to not grant the application, the same day.
Correct.
And when they sent the letter, this time around, they are saying that you should consider their application because they don't have enough funds.
Correct.
But was that a reason initially?
That was not stated before.
That was never a reason. But we will now get to understand why that became a new reason. But then let's just move ahead. That same day, you approved the application for further, for you to further consider their application. That same day, on the 5th, there were 3 correspondences. The same day, which is very unusual. Do you agree that it is very unusual for you to write to a particular institution, they reply you back, this become a council, by the way, and you now grant the application the same day, 3 correspondences in the same day, same period? You would agree that is very unusual.
Correct.
Is that not the case, Mr. Tambura?
Yes, Council.
Yes, we all live in this country. We know that is practically impossible. But your letter dated the 5th of August again, 2020, you approved, but this time you gave a conditional approval. Let us look at the letter giving conditional approval for the purchase of these 2 vehicles amounted to 1,700,000. Mr. Sayang, probably this is the letter I am probably not happy with the most regarding why, let's say, in other situations, you may probably have an argument, which even though it may not hold water, but then it may be a logical argument. With this one, there's a clear reason for you to suspect fraud. And you know what I'm talking about. And there's a total disregard of all the rules and regulations. It's very, very clear. But on that same day, you granted conditional approval. Let's look at the contents of the conditional approval.
A request for permission for use of request for quotation procurement methods. We refer to your letter reference BAC/077/A dated on 5th August 2020, BAC/077/A dated 3rd July 2020 but received on the 3rd August 2020. BAC/077/A dated 13th July 2020, and our letters reference GPPA/BAC/TR3/24BS dated 5th August 2020, GPPA/BAC/TR3/22PMA dated 30th July 2020, all relating to your request for permission to purchase 2 used vehicles. I am directed to inform you that, based on all the circumstances proffered in your above reference letters, the authority hereby grants you a conditional approval without admission of liabilities for the procurement of 2 used vehicles, and that is Toyota Hilux double cabin pickup from Jimar Car Trading at a total amount of $1,700,000 only. Please note that the purchase of second-hand goods is not catered in the GPPA Amendment Act 2018. This decision to approve or disapprove is discretional based on circumstances or specialized equipment and is subject to the recommendation of a contracts committee based on the powers vested on the said committee by Section 47(3) and 49A of the Gambia Public Procurement Amendment Act 2018. Further, note that it is a requirement for members of a contracts committee to meet and agree on the course of action for any procurement-related transaction, but the authority noted with concern that the minutes of the said meeting was not signed. Hence, this conditional approval is subject to Brikama Area Council submitting to the authority minutes of the Contrast Committee meeting held in the office of the CEO on Tuesday, 7th July 2020 at 12:40 hours, signed by all the members who attended, agreeing on the course of action. In addition, the inspection delegation team must also sign against their names all to confirm that the council stand to attain better value for money by buying the said vehicles. We thank you for your understanding.
So, in this letter, Mr. Tambura, Mr. Sayang, you granted approval, a conditional approval. And the conditional approval is such that it has all the conditions as to why you refused the application in the first place. But yet still the application was granted. The same day you had 3 applications, quick transactions between Brikama Area Council and your institution on the 5th of August 2020. You are saying that you are granted conditional approval without admission of liability. Number one, let's deal with that. What does that mean?
Here, the Procurement Act empowers contracts committees to make procurement-related decisions. And of course, we are an authority to advise, but the law doesn't allow the authority to interfere much in any procurement-related decision-making. So if they insist that and trying to put all justifications that they needed the vehicle, and if we are pushed at a corner, yes, we can, of course, consider.
Mr. Sayang, did you work on that file?
Whether I worked on
this particular file?
Personally?
Yes. You can look at the routine slips. Did you work on it? Because your answer, really, I don't want to say what I want to say. Did you work on this particular file?
Well, when files come to the authority from the...
Did you treat the file at any given point in time? Did any of you treat this file at any point in time? You can look at the routine slip, especially the one that you stated that Brikama Area Council did not at any point say that they don't have money. In fact, that was the basis why they had to provide a further reconsideration letter to now just say that they don't have money, because you are telling them this is what you are supposed to say and you didn't say it. Did you work on that file?
Yes, I have seen my comments on some of the routine slip.
Mr. Sayang, did you work on the file? It's a yes?
Yes,
yes. Exactly.
Yes.
It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that.
Yes.
Mr. Tambura, how about you?
Yes, I have seen the file before.
Good. Now, and your comments are what? What were your comments on the file that you are seeing right now?
On this request, the justification by Brikama Area Council is still not strong.
Exactly.
Brikama Area Council did not mention that they don't have cars. According to them, they want to buy two vehicles at 1,700,000. In the last letter, they don't have time for tender. The application, the authority can shorten the bidding period for two weeks.
You see?
So these are minutes, but then, in minutes the slip is such that we write very short.
No, I am not accusing you of anything, both of you. I'm just saying that you gave them reasons. You had minutes, initially, reasons that they never provided. The authority gave them reasons as to what would have amounted to a justification. First, had they written earlier to say that they don't have money, you would have granted it initially. Now you wrote that they came with a further application for you to reconsider your position, and now the reason is they don't have money. They don't have enough money, and it was granted automatically. You see, on the 5th, there were interesting transactions that were happening on the 5th. 3, you guys already agreed that it's not even possible in this jurisdiction, in Gambia, we all live here, to send one letter, get a response, and get another letter again the same day. That's not possible, number one. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
Practically impossible. But then I will tell you why it is not possible, because all those documents were being forged. All those documents were being forged, you will see clearly. That is why you have a letter, an application on the 13th, the first application on the 13th, your rejection on the 30th of the same month, same year, and a letter for you to reconsider your position on the 3rd of the same month. That doesn't make sense. The time is that not correct?
Yeah, it's very baffling.
It's very
baffling.
It's very baffling. But it's not baffling, it's a scheme. You know why it's a scheme? Because all the contracts committee meetings were all signed, were all photocopies. They were not even signed by any individual. The CEO prepared all this documentation and then signed it all by himself and put all the reference number to be the same and start to work on the dates. But we'll get to that interesting part. But for now, why grant the conditional approval when nothing had been met? No condition had been met, Mr. Sayang and Tamura. Were you under any pressure to grant this particular procurement?
I don't think we are in pressure at that time to give a conditional approval based on what they have said or indicated in their...
So why was it granted? Now, let's look back again on the...
Let me just highlight one thing to Mr. Sanya. Mr. Sanya, you will agree with us that you lectured us on the principles of procurement, right?
Correct.
And in this transaction, you've written to Brikama Area Council, telling them that with the kind of money they have to purchase used cars, you will give them authorization to purchase these same cars on a higher purchase basis, which will afford them value for money. That was mentioned only once, and the authority never went back on that recommendation to pursue it. Why?
Actually, that was an advice, and like I always emphasize, the decision to buy comes from procuring organization.
But Mr.
GPP,
wait, Mr. Sanyang, because you see, let's be honest with what we are saying, because the authority's responsibility is to make sure that procuring institutions are not given the liberty to make sure that they use funds without having due consideration for the principle of value for money.
Correct.
And under that circumstance, you can refuse approval. And there is nothing they can do about that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes,
Council,
that was interesting. That will bring us back to when he said that they were pushed at a corner. then I'm sure every time you are pushed at the corner, the only thing that you will do is to approve. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they still insisted that they needed the vehicles and trying to justify
sorry,
this.
Mr. Sanyang, please answer the questions and you can give further explanation so that we know exactly what your evidence
Yes.
is.
Whenever you are pushed at the corner, will you approve?
If it is not in line, no, we will not.
Exactly. Was this in line?
No,
But yet still was approved.
correct,
So the answer that you are pushed at the corner is not correct.
correct.
Good. Now, let's now revisit when in fact they thanked you. They thanked you immensely. Your institution, GPPA. But I will now tell you why they thank you. But first, look at the logo. Pick any of the logos in their application. On the 13th, or the 3rd, or the 5th of August. Just anyone you come across. Do you notice anything on the logo? Does it seem to be an original to you? It is not, because even if you look at the referencing, you will see that. Do you see the logo?
Yes, I have seen the logo.
You will agree that that is not an original logo.
And
In fact, you can look at the logo on the 13th, on the 3rd, and on the 5th of August. Do you agree it's not an original logo?
yes, it seems not to be an original.
At all. I will show that to the commissioners at some point. But then now look at the letter dated the 3rd of July 2020.
Okay.
The reference is, what is the reference?
BAC stroke 077 stroke E.
Where is the reference located at on the page?
On the left hand side.
Yes, and then?
Yes, below the line.
Below the line.
Yes.
And then?
There is a line on top that separates the logo and other contacts.
And who is it addressed to?
The Director General, Gambia Public Procurement Authority, 9 Kairaba Avenue.
What date is that letter?
3rd July 2020.
Now compare that with the letter dated the 13th of July.
Yes, I have seen that.
Is there any difference?
Yes.
What is the difference?
BAC stroke 077 stroke A.
Yes.
Dated 13th July 2020.
Yes. Where is it printed on?
On the line.
On the line. And where you have the reference is where you have the addressee.
Correct, yes.
Is that not correct?
Yes.
So it's like having the addressees, the addressee printed on the reference.
Correct.
Is that not correct? And the logo, if you see it, you will know that it's not an original logo. But who signed this application? The CEO.
Modu Jonga, yes, the
What-
chief executive
Officer Modu Jonga. He signed all the applications. All of them.
Yes.
And they all bear the same reference number. So now it is now making sense when you have the first application on the 13th of July, the first application for you to grant approval for RFQ. And when you reject it on the 30th, you now have a subsequent application on the 3rd of July. Do you understand?
Correct.
They are in the same reference number. Do you understand? It's signed by the same individual.
Correct.
And when you now rejected that one, they also sent the same logo, same reference number, dated the 5th of August, signed by the same individual.
Correct.
But he informed you that the contrast committee signed, you said they didn't sign the minutes. Now look at the minutes that were attached, the contrast committee minutes. The first minute that was attached, there was no signature. Subsequently, he attached a contrast committee minutes. Can you make reference to the contrast committee minutes? I had attach a sticker on it. You will see it on the sides. It should be there the 7th. Is it the 7th?
Okay, I have.
You have the contracts committee minutes of the 7th, I believe, also. Do you see it?
Yes, 7 July.
7 July. 7 July is the contracts committee minute, right? But remember, on 7 July, that is a contracts committee minute, but then on the 3rd July, there was an application already for you to reconsider your decision. Do you see that? On 7 July is when the contracts committee sat to discuss this issue. But on the 3rd of July, the same year, they had already sent an application for RFQ. Does that make sense?
No.
But that's not only the most interesting part. You will see that the attachment of the minutes, can you look at the attachment of the minutes? The ones that they sign at the back. What is the date?
7/7/2022.
7th day of what?
7.
Yes. Now, what do you notice about those signatures? Are they in their original form or are they in the
No, they are photocopies.
They are photocopies. But then how about the typed minutes? Are the typed minutes in photocopies or in original?
Originals.
Original. They had minutes typed and then the signatures photocopied. Is that not the case?
Correct, yes.
Does that raise any form of suspicion to any reasonable person?
Yes, it can.
But it didn't raise suspicion to your office when you granted the application. Why is that? Was that an oversight? Now I am beginning to give you answers. Was that an oversight?
I think so.
That was not an oversight. You see, I was making it very.
You cannot suggest answers to
the
witness.
It is deliberate, Madam Chairperson. It's very deliberate because that would have been the answer that the witness would have said. I will now tell you why it's not an oversight. Because when you look at that document, you requested that the contracts committee meetings are not signed initially. And you told us that the contracts committee meetings are very paramount in you granting or refusing an application. Is that not the case, sir? The Tamura?
Yes, Council. I just want to make a comment here.
Please make a comment.
From the deliberations.
Yes.
I can remember when my colleague was going over the conditional approval. One of the conditions was the minutes were not signed.
Yes.
Therefore, they are supposed to write or prepare other minutes, sign and submit to the authority.
Yes.
That could have explained the minutes coming after the approval.
Is that explaining why it is photocopied and when the minutes are in the original form?
No, it doesn't explain. I said that could have explained why these minutes are coming after the approval.
That is only explaining.
Yes, that's what I'm just.
That is only explaining the fact that this appears to be a possible collusion. Because if the minutes are not signed and after what you have is photocopy of minutes signed, and even the date of the minute of the contracts committee purported meeting is on the 7th. The application has already been done on the 3rd. You forgot? Did we not have an application on the 3rd of July?
That's
so
right.
Should the contracts committee meeting happen before the application or after the application?
Before the application.
Before the application. Would
Yes,
that be an oversight as well?
My colleague has answered that, but it's an anomaly.
It's an anomaly. This time, not an
Yes,
oversight. You see, they replied to you, thanking you. And this is the part that angered me the most. Look at their reply on the 18th.
Yes, on the 18th.
Yes, they said what?
I write to acknowledge receipt of your letter with reference GPBA stroke BAC stroke TR3 24 BS dated 5th procurement method. I write to acknowledge receipt of your letter with reference GPBA stroke BAC stroke TR3 24 BS dated 5th August 2020. We wish to thank you for your conditional approval for the procurement of 2 used vehicles, Toyota Hilux double cabin pickup from Jimar Car Trading at a total amount of $1,700,000 only. We herein attach the signed minutes of the Contrast Committee meeting and report of the inspection team as per your request.
You know, they were thanking you for taking part in a scheme. Sir, I'm sorry to say, what they were thanking you for is taking part in a collusion. Clearly. Because, and I will ask you the question, in this particular application, did they conform with any procedure?
No. No.
Was this application supposed to be granted at any given point in time?
No.
And that's what they are thanking you for. Because you know, as far as you're concerned, that there were no signed contrast committee minutes. Is that not correct?
Correct.
And in addition to that, if you look at the, can you please show, I'll ask the registrar to show the commissioners the letter, and let it go around, because they will only appreciate it in that form. When you photocopy it, they will not appreciate it. The letter dated the 13th of July 2020, and the letter dated the 3rd of July 2020 from BAC, Becoming Area Council, when we discussed and you confirmed that they are not in their original form. And please point to the register where you have the reference number being, the addresses being printed on the reference number.
This is one of the letters. Yeah. 13th. I think there is another one. This is the 13th July. This is the 3rd July. And this is the 18th August.
Madam Chairperson, Honorable Commissioners, you will see that in the logo in those documents, and of course we will call an expert, are not in their original form. The references are all the same from British America throughout the application. And at some point they were even printed on. There was an overlap of printing to give anyone reasonable suspicion of fraudulent practice. Mr. Sayang, please show the registrar where you have the type minutes and then the photocopy of the signatures. Because you have the contrast committee minutes in two folds.
This is the
Part of it is being typed and the other part is being photocopied. So where you have the signatures, they are being photocopied, and where you have yes, Mr. Sayang, now let me, how is it possible that $1,700,000 was cleared by your office to be purportedly used for procurement when there were all these red flags? Sir?
yes.
Do you have to repeat myself? How was it possible that your office will grant this application with all these red flags? Do you have an answer for that?
No.
You don't have an answer. How about Mr. Tambura?
No.
Now the other question is, did the procuring organization in this particular application comply with any requirement? Just one requirement. The Tamura? The Tamura, you can answer independently while my friend is looking at the file.
I've seen here like forms, for example.
What are the forms?
Some of the forms, because the question is whether it has complied with even one requirement.
Just one.
Yeah, I'm saying I have seen some of the forms attached here.
Yes.
Yes.
But that's not an answer. Which of the forms comply with any of the requirements? You can help yourself by saying no, but you now made to make it very difficult. So now let me hear you. Which of the forms comply with any of the requirements?
I'm not saying the form.
In that file,
Okay.
is there any requirement that has been complied with?
No.
Mr. Sanya, what is your answer to that?
No.
Hmm?
No.
No requirement was even a single requirement. So if anyone is to have any reasonable conclusion of a fraudulent practice, would that be justifiable?
Yes, I think so.
Honorable Chairperson, that will be the end of this file, so you may ask questions regarding this.
I believe it's past 1. It's a convenient point to stop.
Yes, when we come back.
Yes. We may rise for lunch and we reconvene.